Welcome to our channel, Million Dollars Made Easy. On this channel, we run numbers for people. We use the actual historical returns for the S&P 500 for the last 100 years, which includes the depression years. We project ahead what similar returns might do for in the future. They won't be exact, but they give us a similar return of what you might have, and it gives us simply a possible range of what may happen in the future. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a numbers guy. I love to set up spreadsheets. I'm constantly making more and more spreadsheets to help run numbers for you. Now, here's a situation I'm running into a lot. I'm running into people that aren't quite at the retirement stage. They aren't starting out the accumulation stage, so they don't have 35 or 40 years. They may be in their late 40s, early 50s, and they maybe only have 10, 15, or 20 years until retirement. And so they're giving me these numbers, what they currently have saved up, how much they're adding, but we're trying to find out how it's going to look once they reach retirement, whether they can go at 62 or 65 or whatever. So I need to come up with some kind of balance here so I can have a beginning balance right here. Here's what I set up for a spreadsheet. Here's an individual. He's 55 years old. He's got 320,000 saved. Can save 800 a month. So these are the actual numbers for the last 100 years where an individual will be. He's 55 now. So at age 62, in 7 years, given this scenario, he would have put in $387,200. Now, how much would he have in every single year after 7 years from now, given the returns for the S&P 500? There's a time period in there. In fact, all these yellows, you have less than what you actually put in. Why? What's going on here? You're running into a bad decade. You're running into a bad string of years. You have consecutive down years and then down 37. So you actually end up with less money in 7 years from now than what you actually put in. You put in 387,200, but you only got 300,000 to show for it. The second lowest in the last 100 years, you only have 321, and so on. And so what I'm doing is looking at the 10th one. In other words, this is the 10th lowest one in the last 100 years. The reason I'm using that as my reasoning is I have to come up with some kind of a number. I'm figuring 90% of the time over the last 100 years with these numbers, you would have 421,000 for your beginning balance once you reach retirement, which is what we're going to go to now. We're going to say, yes, 421,000. Next thing we have to consider is how much he figures he needs. Let's say he needs 4,250 a month in expenses. Again, that's going to change too. We'll just run it with that right now, which would be 51,000 a year. Now we also have to do one more thing. We're going to plan for his Social Security here. But right now, his Social Security statement says that age 67, his full retirement age, is going to get $2,500. But what's nice about Social Security is it goes up each year. This amount's not going to stay 2,500. Remember, he's only 55. Age 67, they're projecting he's going to have right now at 2,500. But I'm running this at 2% for the next 12 years. We could change this any way you want. In other words, his full retirement amount is going to change from 2,500 up to 3,171. That's at age 67 in 12 years. The problem with that is he doesn't have 12 years. He only has, let's go ahead and change this, in 7 years, his full retirement amount is going to be 2,872. That's what this 2,500 is going to change to. So it's going to be 2,872. But he's taking it at age 62. Hopefully I'm not losing here. So he's going to get $2,010 a month from Social Security. 2010. You're going to get that from the very first year. So he's going to have a 6.38% withdrawal rate. That is kind of high. He's going to have some problems because that's quite a bit higher than the 4% rule. We're also going to do a 70-30 split for your asset allocation. I'm trying to show you all the different numbers we can run for you here. 70% staying in the S&P 500, so it can benefit from them when the returns come back, but also having a cash reserve account, some kind of a liquid account. So when the market's going down, you're taking these amounts out of that and not out of that. You don't want to sell low. You don't want to knock it down even farther when the market's going down. So we're going to go ahead and update this for every single year, the last 100 years. Again, this 6.38% withdrawal rate is going to lead to some problems because it's quite a bit higher than the 4% withdrawal rule. We are given a 3% COLA, if I didn't mention that. How many times the last 100 years would you have a problem? 10% of the time. 10% of the time, during the Depression years and also the years 2000, around there, because we had the down decades of the 1930s, we had the down decade of the 2000s. Most of the time, folks, you'd be just fine. This graph shows you'd be in great shape. This is with 421,000. Again, we're just guessing that that's what you're going to have at least 90% of the time based on this right here. Let's go on and look at the 10-year column. In the 10-year column, you would have put in 416,000 given these numbers. Worst case scenario, you'd only have 358,000 to show for it. The second worst, again, over the last 100 years, you only have 392. But we want to look at this over here, the 10th lowest, which means 90% of the time you'd have at least this much. So I'm going to go with this number right here, 552,000, just kind of like what we just did, 552,000. I'm going to leave the asset allocation the same. We're going to leave the COLA the same. The thing we have to change here is the Social Security, because he will be getting Social Security if he takes it 65. Now we got this growing by 10 years. See all the numbers we have to change here. That'll grow to 30, 47 for full retirement age, but he's going at 65. So he's in the 5th year. He's going to get 10th year from now, 2642. 2642. 42. That's beginning in the 4th year because he was 62, 63, 64. Now we're going to 65. So in other words, he's going to take right here. He's got this 4250 that he's planning that he's going to need. The first 3 years, that's all going to come out of his nest egg. But in the 4th year, when he's turned 65, this 2642 is going to kick in. So he's only going to need 1,867 from his nest egg. Let's see how that affects the numbers. Hopefully this is making sense to you. But that's the issue I have when I have somebody that says, well, I'm 45, 50. Can you tell me what I might be able to, accumulate? So only 2% of the time in the last 100 years, he would have a problem given this 10-year scenario. So that's actually an improvement. Right here is 1920, 29, and 1930. Every other scenario, even the year 2000, it was looking good. So in other words, if he wants to possibly consider doing this at age 62, again, I'm running at 4 and 21. It's very possible he could have the median. The median is 795,000. The highest is 1.609. The second highest is 1.438. You can see this is kind of an outlier between the highest and the second highest. There's $200,000 difference. But that's what we need to do is kind of run some numbers when somebody's telling me when they're giving me numbers in the accumulation stage, but they're also wanting to know where they might be in the withdrawal stage. I have to come up with one of these numbers. So I'm figuring 90% of the time you have this kind of money after 7 years, and 90% of the time you have this much money after 10 years. And we saw that if we did that after 10 years, he'd have a lot better chance of success with these numbers as opposed to the 421,000 and the taking Social Security initially. But hopefully this makes sense. I'm trying to develop these spreadsheets to help people see where they might be, realizing a lot of them are well into their working career. They don't have 35, 40 years, which I love to run when I catch somebody and they're younger. They don't have that kind of time, but they already have a beginning balance, and we run the numbers for them like we did in this channel. But please consider subscribing. Please share this channel. Please comment, like the videos. Let people know there's a channel out there that will run numbers for them. Of course, these are all approximations. But we believe it's probably going to be within that range of what's happening in the last 100 years. Thanks for watching.